All right, thank you for joining us for the Winter 2021 Digital Program Series presented by the Corey Higher Education Council. Today's session, Social Security Pre-Retirement Seminar, will provide resources you will need to know about Social Security for your retirement. This seminar will cover such topics as completing the Social Security claim online, establishing a mySocialSecurity account, the effect of earnings on your benefits, and Medicare with Social Security retirement benefits. Presenter John Johnston, who I'll turn over to just in a few minutes, has worked with the Social Security Administration in various capacities since 1996 and is currently a public affairs specialist for Pennsylvania with a lead role in online services outreach. My name is Brody Howard. I'm the Executive Director of the Corey Higher Education Council and will be your co-host for today's program. I will be primarily responsible for moderating your chat questions and comments during today's presentation. Just remember that we'll be making a recording of this presentation to provide it to each participant after today's session. So one of the things we'd like to take care of, a little housekeeping arrangements here overall, is that we would ask you to please mute yourself when not speaking. Just out of the respect for our presenter and also those in the room to limit the background noise. Feel free to ask those questions and comments in the chat box, which is below if you're attending via Zoom, right in the middle of the screen. Additionally, if you're on Facebook Live, you can also place them in the comments box on the Facebook Live video feed. Q&A session will be offered at the conclusion of the presentation, which will provide the opportunity for you to come off of mute and ask John some of your questions. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to John. Take it away.
Yeah, hey, thanks, Brody. Just one housekeeping question. There are going to be a couple of times that I break at just natural points during the presentation where I solicit questions from the audience. Is that an okay model for you?
That's perfect. And I'll make sure that we'll stop there and share anything that anyone's placed in the chat at that point in time or commented on, and I'll share that with you at that time as well.
Yeah, and I'll also allow you to share any relative, comments as we're going along that you feel like would, further the conversation. So if someone types in a comment or something. Brody, how many people do we have on the call? Just so I know how many people I'm talking to.
Currently, right now, we have 6. So we will be working through that, and we'll be adding anyone else that will be joining us late will be coming in. So we'll have approximately around 10 today.
Excellent. Thanks, Brody. Well, thanks everyone for joining me. I can't see you, but I'm on the other end of a phone looking at a PowerPoint that I designed especially for this presentation. Since we have a small group, I'd say the one good thing about the pandemic, it's enabled me to do more presentations like this and say yes to more presentations like this to smaller groups of people. Because we only have 6 to 10 people on the line, really, I'm going to work you through how to retire with Social Security. But if you have questions, don't leave this seminar with questions. Okay, this is your opportunity to ask anything Social Security related. And even if it's not retirement related, we'll have some time at the end of the call to catch anything. Okay, so take advantage of your time. Brody, if you would flip past the intro slide, please, into the first slide that says, what is FICA? So when you're working and you're paying taxes on your Social Security, that's referred to as FICA taxes. It's actually the Federal Insurance Contributions Act. And currently you're paying 15.3% of your gross wages. Okay, 6.2% of that is for Social Security, 1.45% of that is for Medicare. So you pay a total of 7.65%. Your employer pays a total of 7.65%. That's where the 15.3% comes from. You'll notice in your box of your W-2s where it says Social Security earnings, that's where the Social Security those are the earnings that the Social Security taxes have come out of, or Medicare earnings. Social Security stops taxing people at $142,800. So if you're lucky enough to earn that amount, you'll be stopped. You won't have that 6.2% from the Social Security at that point. Medicare does tax on every dollar. So some people, some higher earners, will have different amount of taxes that they've paid into Social Security than they've paid into Medicare. A guy like Bill Gates, you guys all know who Bill Gates is. I'll just talk about him today. When he takes off his glasses on January 1st, he's already basically made that $142,000 and paid his maximum into Social Security. Okay. Self-employed people pay the entire 15.3%, since they don't have an employer to kick in that additional 7.65%. However, when you're self-employed, you can write off that expense later on in your tax return. So if you go to the next slide for me, please, Brody. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I just like to throw in some slides that, show how big we are. Even though we're doing this program locally for, Corey Higher Ed, we're a national program and we cover workers all over the United States. In fact, currently about 180 million workers will pay Social Security taxes in 2021, and 93% of workers are eligible under Social Security. So there are some jobs still where people don't pay into Social Security. For instance, in Erie County, I'll keep it local. If you're a fireman who works in the city of Erie, you don't pay into Social Security. You pay into the firemen have their own retirement fund, and those folks don't contribute to Social Security. So, we have mostly universal coverage in 2021. However, there are still pockets of people who do not contribute to Social Security. Okay. If we go to the next slide. Again, just speaking to our size, like I've worked for Social Security for 25 years. I'm still amazed that, every month we pay about 62 million checks. So we have about 62 million people who receive Social Security. We have about 5 million who receive SSI, which is another program that is implemented by us, but isn't funded through Social Security. And then about 2.7 million receive both. I tend to think on a local level. I live in Erie County. I've lived in Erie County most of my life. So I tend to think of things locally. However, we are a national program that has, massive scope in the amount of people that we deal with. You could go to the next slide for me, please, Brody. This is basically, how do you qualify for retirement? And you qualify for retirement benefits by working and paying Social Security taxes. Specifically, we talk about when you hear Social Security, when you attend a seminar like this, or you hear a Social Security employee talking about Social Security, we talk about Social Security benefits like they're an insurance program, and you're contributing while you're working to Social Security to insure yourself against one of three things. One of potential three events. The one event is good, and that's retirement, and that's why we're all here today, and that's what we all hope to get to. We also insure people against disability and death. So when you're working, you're actually paying credits into Social Security, and in 2021, for every $1,470 you earn 1 credit towards being insured for Social Security. Okay. You can earn a maximum of 4 credits each year. So in 2021, once you've earned around $6,000, specifically $5,880, because 1 credit is worth $1,470, you've earned your 4 credits that you can earn in 2021. Okay. And specifically, you need 40 credits, or 40 quarters, some people will refer to them as, in order to be insured for retirement benefits. Most people are insured for retirement benefits by the time they're 26, 27 years old. I got my very first job when I was 15, 16 years old, and I was insured for Social Security retirement benefits by the time I was 26 or 27. The other thing you need to qualify for retirement benefits is you need to be 62 years old. So it's pretty easy to qualify. You need those 10 years of work or 40 credits or 40 quarters, and you need to be 62 years of older. And if you have those two things checked, you'll qualify to receive Social Security retirement benefits. If we flip to the next slide, this gives you some more perspective on how we determine your benefit. So while it's easy to become insured for Social Security, as I said earlier, most people become insured for retirement very young. To get the highest possible benefit, you want to work as much as possible at the highest level possible. So when we're actually determining what your rate is, what we're going to pay you, we look at all your wages for your entire lifetime. Okay. We adjust those wages to today's dollar value. So my very first job, I got scooping ice cream. I lived in my family lived in El Paso, Texas at the time. Very hot in El Paso. We had, days, weeks straight of 100-degree plus temperature. And so I got a job. I was a resourceful kid, and I got a job at the local ice cream parlor scooping ice cream. And in 1985, I earned $2,530. That still shows up on my Social Security statement or my mySocialSecurity account. I still see those wages there. And if I'm lucky enough to make it to my retirement age, and I'm knocking on wood as we're speaking, okay, those $2,530 that I earned in 1985, that might be worth $10,000. Okay, so we adjust your past wages into a today's dollar value. Okay, so I was scooping ice cream in 1985. I earned $2,530. That still shows up on my statement. And if I'm lucky enough to retire, that might be worth $10,000 in a today's dollar value. So the Social Security benefit isn't based on your past earnings. We index them to today's dollar amount. Okay. Once we adjust them, we take your top 35 years. So that means if you've worked 45 years, we're going to drop your 10 lowest years of earnings. If you've only worked 30 years, we're going to give you 5 years worth of zeros plugged into your equation. So oftentimes people ask me, how do I maximize my Social Security benefit? How do I get the most money possible? And the real answer to that question is earn as much as you can for 35 years. Try not to have zeros put in that equation. Okay. Once we have those 35 indexed years, we add them all up and we divide it by 420, which is a number of months in 35 years. And we come up with your average indexed monthly earnings. That's the average of what you earned during your lifetime after it's been indexed for inflation. Okay. If we go to the next slide, please, Brody. From there, and it gets a little mathy here. So if you're not good at math, you don't have to follow along closely. But for those of you who are interested in how we specifically derive your benefit from your earnings, here's the benefit formula. This is not secret. This stuff is on our website. It's all over the place. I know a lot of you all probably have my Social Security accounts, so you're aware of what you're going to receive in retirement. Well, this is specifically how we derive that benefit. Okay. So from the last equation, if your average monthly earnings after they've been indexed for inflation are $7,000, your monthly benefit is going to be $2,648. And specifically how we get there, we take 90% of the first $996. We take 32% of everything between $996 and around $6,000. And then we take 15% of all the earnings over $6,002. Okay. So in 2021, a person who averaged $7,000 of monthly earnings through their lifetime, their Social Security benefit at their full retirement age will be $2,648. Okay. If we take this, if you flip to the next slide, please, Brody. The other factor that comes in, what your benefit is when you take it. So this chart is basically illustrating the difference of what you would receive based on different ages. And in this chart, the full retirement age for the individual is 66 years old. So at 66 years old, they would get $1,000. However, if they took it at 62, they would get $750. If they delayed it all the way to age 70, they would get $1,320. Quite frankly, the biggest question that I get asked as a speaker is, when should I take my Social Security benefit? Should I take it at age 62 and receive a lower portion of my benefit, or should I wait till I'm my full retirement age, or should I delay it all the way to age 70? And quite honestly, that becomes, unless you can tell me the day you're going to die, it really becomes a personal choice depending on how much money do you need to live off of, how much money have you saved, do you have a job right now, can you stand going to work right now, and all those things. What's your health insurance like? That's become a huge piece for people in 2021, that even if they could afford their other retirement expenses, they need to keep their job because they need to keep their health insurance. Okay. It's important to figure out when you want to go, and when you figure out when you want to go, come to us and file the claim. We're not going to tell you when to start receiving your retirement benefits. Hopefully, we're going to give you tools so that you'll understand all the implications of your decision. And then when you decide the month that you want to go, come and let us know. By the way, you don't just have to retire at 62, 63, 64, 66. You can do it at 62 and 6 months. Okay. And we'll comp your benefit accordingly based on the month. And it's about 0.5% for each month that you delay. Your benefit will go up by about 0.5%. And then for each month you delay past your full retirement age, your benefit will go up by about 0.75%. Okay. I feel like this is a good just breaking time for me to see if there's any questions from the group, Brody.
Perfect timing. We do have one in the chat, John. The Wilsons are asking, do unemployment payments count as income?
No, they do not. So they're not, unemployment payments won't be taxed via FICA, and they don't count as income for our earnings test either.
Okay. After that, the chat is clear.
All right, excellent. So if we flip to the next slide, this just illustrates what your full retirement age might be. So I was born past 1960. I was actually born in 1967. So my full retirement age is 67 years old. If you were born between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age is 66 years old. 55, 66 in 2 months, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see it on that chart. You can still receive your benefit at age 62. It just means for myself, I won't get my full benefit until I reach 67. Okay. If we can flip to the next slide, Brody. Social Security, when it was started, was never intended to be a person's sole form of income in retirement. It was to provide a measure of protections for seniors, who had, they were struggling with living in retirement. Quite frankly, this is a little bit unrealistic because I know people, like I have people in my family, my grandparents live just off their Social Security benefits. It's a struggle if that's what your plan is. Social Security will generally, for the average person, replace somewhere between 40 to 45% of your pre-retirement income. Most financial advisors, financial experts will say you need between 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income to live comfortably in retirement. So to live the same lifestyle you're leading now. So I've always said Social Security is kind of the easy part of this. You know, we can start with a basis of about 40%, 45% from our Social Security. The tricky stuff is making sure you have savings, investments, pension, other income, however you're putting the puzzle together so that you're just not living, or your Social Security isn't your only income in retirement. Okay, if we flip to the next screen, this, we have online something called a retirement estimator, and the retirement estimator is really great to be used in conjunction with your mySocialSecurity account. And your retirement estimator basically can help you pinpoint your estimates so that they're more accurate as you get closer and closer to retirement. So I'm 53 right now, and I've never used the retirement estimator. I'm fine with the estimate I'm getting from my mySocialSecurity account. However, as I get closer to retirement, I'll use the estimator, and there you can play with variables. You can, look if you had a, pension that's not, if you worked one of those jobs with the pension based, not covered under Social Security that I talked about earlier, or maybe your earnings, you're planning on quitting your main job and working part-time, so your earnings are going to take a dip, and you want to see how that will impact your future Social Security benefits. You can kind of play around with your variables within the retirement estimator to pinpoint a more accurate estimate. And if you flip to the next slide, Brody, we have many, many more online calculators for spousal benefits, for life expectancy, the break-even calculator. So the point is there's lots of helpful tools on our website for folks who are getting ready to retire that will hopefully guide you, with making the decision so that you make a correct decision on the date that you pick for your retirement. Okay. And I invite you, please check out the calendars, check out all the resources we have online. I say this sometimes when I'm doing a talk like this, because I'm now, I've become like one of the veterans around Social Security. I've been around there for 26 years now, and there's more information available to our customers on our website now than was available to me as an employee when I started with Social Security in 1996. So take advantage of those resources on our website. If we flip to the next slide, Brody. This is about working and receiving benefits. So a lot of our folks come to us now that they're not completely quitting their job. They're maybe going to part-time work, or they're just reducing their hours, and they're going to make part-time work part of their retirement plan. That is so common from people we're hearing through in 2021. So when Social Security is looking at somebody, when we're paying out benefits, if you think about the word retirement, it's hard to come up with like a universal definition for that word. People are all going to have, their own definition of retirement. And so what we do is what we define it as, it's a decrease in your work activity. And in order to receive benefits under the retirement program of Social Security, in 2021, you can make around $19,000 per year and still get all 12 of your checks. Specifically, the number is 18,960. And by the way, these numbers change every year, okay? So if you sat in on my seminar that I did for Corey Higher Ed in November, I think it was in November, Brody, that we did our last one, but this slide would have been a little bit different. The numbers would have been 2020's numbers, okay? So in 2021, you're allowed to earn around $19,000, and for every dollar you earn over that, for every $2 you earn over that, we'll subtract $1 from your Social Security benefit. If you're the year that you've reached your full retirement age, you're allowed to earn around $50,000 up to the month of your full retirement age. So an example, this one's a little tricky to understand. My birthday I already told you guys I was born in 1967. My birthday is in September. If I'm lucky enough to make it to my retirement age and I'm delaying my benefits to age 67, that year, okay, the year that I turn 67, I would be allowed to earn $50,000 from January up until September and still receive my checks. So some people can still continue to work full time and the year of their full retirement age start getting checks that January. So for instance, if my birthday was in March rather than September, I would have 2 months to earn $50,000. So we see a lot of people, starting their benefits in January of the year of their full retirement age, even if they're still working, because of the the increase in the tier of what you're allowed to earn and still receive retirement benefits. And once you're past your full retirement age, so once you get past age 66, 67, whatever it is for you, you can earn as much money as you'd like and still receive all your retirement benefits. By the way, this may or may not be a question that you have, but usually when I'm doing a seminar like this, a question comes up that what happens to my actual benefit in retirement? Does it increase if I keep working? And the answer to that is absolutely. The Social Security benefits, like that computation that I showed you a couple of slides back, is like a living computation, meaning it keeps going even when you're retired. So if you're retired and you continue to work, anytime you replace the lowest of your 35 years of earnings with a new year that's higher than that low year, you'll get an increase in your Social Security. And that happens automatically when your employer reports your earnings to us. So you don't have to take any action at all. Although some of our customers are busy contacting us the moment they get their W-2 because they want us to manually recomp their benefits. You don't have to do that. You can just wait. At some point during the following year, your company or your employer will report your earnings to Social Security. And if you're due an adjustment, we'll adjust you and you'll get a letter. It'll be retroactive back to January of that year. Okay. I'm going to take another brief pause right now, Brody, only because there's usually some questions after I cover those two concepts, just to see if anyone has anything.
Okay. Since we broke last time, there has not been any new chatter there or questions. We'll maybe wait a few seconds here to see if anyone potentially is typing in their question at this point in time. John, maybe it might be a good time to reference some of the links that we provided them in the email leading up to the presentation today that were resources back to the socialsecurity.gov website.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Brody, have you already mailed those out to folks? Did they already receive the email with the different links in it?
They have.
Okay. All right. So if you were, again, this is a change for us. Like, I've worked with Corey Higher Ed for years, and I always show up in person and I do this presentation in person. And, I would bring in a bag full of publications of all sorts of Social Security publications, and I would set them on the table, and the group would pick them up either when they came in the door or when they left. And I would then leave them at Corey Higher Ed for use later on. Those publications are now PDFs. Okay. So again, just dealing with this, quite frankly, a pandemic, this new way that we're doing business right now. Those are specifically chosen to give you more insight about retirement, and they all dial right into our website. There's all sorts of, there's information on the slide that I just covered, which tends to be tricky for people, how work affects your benefits. There's specifically ones on how to set up, if you haven't set up your mySocialSecurity account, there's specific instructions on how to set up a mySocialSecurity account. And again, hopefully helpful resources to help you make the right decision when you're starting your Social Security and trying to figure out, we can look very complex from the outside. So to help you figure out how to deal with us, share those too, please, share them with friends, family members, anyone who has anything about Social Security, and hopefully you'll find those helpful.
Just
And
a
if we have
brief
no questions,
follow-up there, John, to the previous question about unemployment payments counting as income. The follow-up question is, if a person is currently receiving unemployment and files to receive Social Security benefits, those payments won't affect it?
well, unemployment payments will not impact Social Security, okay? So when Social Security, we're looking at earnings, and by earnings, we mean, a W-2 that you'd receive from an employer, or self-employment that would be reported on a Schedule SE or a Schedule C. Unemployment, pensions, stimulus checks, rental income you may have, any sort of passive income streams that a person may have in retirement don't impact retirement benefits. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say, you'd want to check with the unemployment office if retirement payments from us would impact your, unemployment benefits. I don't answer questions for other agencies. Like, I'm one of those believers that, a little knowledge can do a lot of damage. So, you'll also, the person who's asking that question is going to want to check in with Pennsylvania unemployment and ask the same question, but ask it in a reverse way. If I file for Social Security retirement and start receiving retirement benefits, will that impact my unemployment benefits?
Okay, we should be set to restart and move on to the next slide.
Excellent. So we're going to get into benefits for spouses. I told you the biggest question that I get asked as a speaker is, when should I take my Social Security? The second biggest question that I get asked as a speaker is about spousal benefits. They are seem to be a very confusing element of Social Security to most people. And the simple thing, I'm going to run through how spousal benefits work over the next 10 minutes or so, but I also want to reassure everyone, really all you have to do is figure out when you want to file your claim and remember your spouse's name when you file your application, okay? When you file a Social Security application, every question on the application is designed to maximize benefits for you and your family. So if you just answer the questions about your spouse that we have on the claim, we'll automatically entitle that spouse to, and yourself, if you're eligible for a spousal benefit, to the most benefits possible. So by law, the question, even though you think you're just filing for retirement benefits, there's many, many more things that you're potentially filing for, including spousal benefits. We have special provisions for railroad workers. So we ask questions about people who worked for the railroad. We have special provisions for folks who served in the military. We have special provisions for folks who took a vow of poverty. My mom is a widow, so she gets the Social Security widow's benefits. And when she filed her application, one of the questions on her application was, did the number holder, my father, the person who my mom was applying for benefits under, ever work and were they ever insured under a foreign country? And my family grew up in Canada. I lived in Canada for 13 years. So my dad was insured under the Canadian Social Security program. And just by answering yes to that question, we assisted my mom with getting a small Canadian widow's benefit too. So my point is, the scope of the application is much greater than what you think you're applying for. And just by listing your spouse, you're ensuring that you're going to get spousal benefits. Okay. Now, how do spousal benefits work? Okay. Well, first off, most of the time in 2020, spousal benefits are almost a benefit from a time past. Okay. My mother's age, I'll say, where it was very traditional for a woman to stay home and not have a job and raise kids. I look at my wife and a lot of my colleagues' wives or spouses. She's worked every day that I've worked. She didn't take time off to have a child, so she's going to be insured on her own record also. Okay. When we're looking for a spouse can receive the maximum benefit of 50% of the worker's unreduced benefit. So 50% of what the worker would receive at their full retirement age, but we subtract their benefit out of it. Okay. So let's use myself as an example. And I'm going to use round numbers. Let's say I have a $2,000 Social Security benefit at my full retirement age. That means my wife could get a possible $1,000, okay, off of my record at her full retirement age. However, if her benefit is $1,500, she would be eligible as a spouse, but she would be due no money because she would get more on her own record. If I could use the same example again, that my wife has a $900 benefit. Okay, what that means, and my benefit is still $2,000, so half of it is $1,000. Okay, what that means is when she reaches her full retirement age, she would get $900 on her own and $100 on mine. If her benefit was $1,100, she'd get zero on my record because her benefit is higher than 50% of mine. And so just by listing your spouse on the application, we'll compare not only, your benefit to your spouse's, but, we'll reverse that comparison too to see if you're eligible for anything on your spouse's record. So it's spouse is a gender neutral term where we're looking at both the husband and the wife for eligibility on each record. Traditionally, it's been paid husband to wife. That's the traditional use of a spousal benefit, but it can also be wife to husband if the wife was the higher earner. And again, just by listing that spouse, you're going to make sure that that benefit is paid. Spousal benefits have no impact on the worker. And if we flip to the next slide, and actually just skip right over that slide, please, Brody, and go to the one that says for benefits for divorced spouses. Most of the time when I'm out in a room talking, almost everyone has, someone in the room has a divorced spouse. So, and they have questions maybe, or they're thinking about their divorced spouse. And divorced spousal benefits work the exact same way as normal spousal benefits, except the duration of marriage is different. So with a divorced spouse, you have to have been married, or the marriage has to have lasted for at least 10 years. So if you know someone who's been in a bad marriage for 9.5 years, tell them to hold on for that last 6 months, because there might be a benefit on the other side of it. Obviously, to qualify as a divorced spouse, you can't be currently married. So if you're currently married, you're a potential spouse on someone else's record, so you're unable to claim as a divorced spouse. You have to be 62. And the other difference between a divorced spouse and a normal spousal benefit is, under a normal spousal benefit, the worker has to file a claim before their spouse can claim. A divorced spouse can be independently entitled, meaning the divorced spouse, if the worker is eligible to file the claim, they're 62, but they just haven't filed a claim, a divorced spouse can claim off of that record. And that, quite frankly, the reason for that rule is that prevents a spiteful divorced spouse from not filing a Social Security claim just to keep the money away from, their husband or wife. Okay. So again, I think the important part of the spousal stuff is, the scope of the application. You don't have to be an expert in spousal benefits. You just have to know who you're married to and tell us that on the application. We also ask about ex-married or ex-spouses too. So we ask about previous marriages also in the application. And if we flip to the next slide, you're also covering your child, under Social Security. So if you have a child who's under the age of 18, or a child who is disabled and became disabled before the age of 22, they may be eligible for a benefit on your record also. And again, just like how we solicit information from you about your spouse and other things. We're going to solicit information for you about your kids, and do you have minor kids? Do you have disabled adult children? And they may be eligible on your record too. Generally, a child is eligible for 50% of your full retirement age benefit. So if you're going to get $2,000 at your full retirement age, if you're an old dad and you have a minor child at home, your child would get $1,000 per month. If they were disabled, maybe you have a child who has a permanent disability and has been receiving SSI benefits, when you file your retirement claim, that child would now be eligible for a disabled adult child's benefit, and they would be taken off of SSI and put on Social Security. A lot of people don't know about this disabled adult child's benefit. I've often said it's one of the benefits that never gets talked about Social Security. Here in Erie County, we have the Barber National Institute. You may or may not be familiar with them, but they do great work for really our permanently disabled population, our folks who are intellectually disabled, have pretty severe disabilities, who will never live in normal conditions. They mostly live in group homes. A lot of those folks over there are receiving a disabled adult child's benefit. They're receiving a benefit based on their parents' contributions to Social Security. And then sometimes the parents are long gone, have been gone for years, yet the child continues to receive, the adult child, the now adult, continues to receive benefits on their parents' records. It's important to note that because, Social Security is not welfare. Social Security is something that you guys have contributed to, and you're now receiving a benefit based on that. So if I had a disabled child, I would take solace in the fact to know that they were going to be taken care of, long after I'm gone, based on my contributions to Social Security. Okay. If we can flip to the next slide, please. I'm going to spend just a minute on survivors benefits. Usually when I'm doing a talk like this, I have a widower out there. Again, kids can receive benefits off of a worker who died. So when my dad died, my youngest brother was still 17. So he was able to get benefits until he graduated from high school. Okay. So minor children can be entitled on a parent's record if they pass, and also disabled adult children, which I've already discussed. Widows and widowers can be eligible at age 60 for a Social Security benefit off of their deceased spouse's record. And if they're disabled, they can receive benefits at age 50. Now, if we flip to the next slide, the key, and this is what I always mention, even in a retirement seminar, about widows and widowers benefits. A widow or widower can switch their benefit once during their lifetime and not carry their original reduction factor with them. So my mom, I'll give you an example of that. My mom was widowed. I already talked about that. She filed her widow's claim at age 60. Her full retirement age was 66. Okay. By the way, my mom lives out in Denver, and she knows that I use her as an example when I do Social Security talks. So when she filed her claim at age 60, she got 71.5% of my dad's Social Security benefit. If she would have waited until age 66, she would have got 100% of it. My mom also was a teacher for a number of years, so she gained her insured status with Social Security by teaching, okay? So she had her own benefit. When my mom turned 70, her own benefit had maxed out. If you remember that chart earlier, so her own benefit was now at 132% because it grows 8% per year past age 66. And this was about 5 years ago, because my mom's 75 and a half now. So when she was about 5 years ago, she filed a claim, at the Social Security office in Denver to change her widow's entitlement of 71.5% of my dad's over to her own benefit, where she's now getting 132% of her own benefit. And hopefully she'll live a long life getting that higher benefit. The concept with a widow or widower, you have an additional claiming strategy where you can claim one benefit and then hopefully claim a higher benefit later on. So that's what my mom did. She took a lower widow's benefit. Eventually, her benefit grew above that widow's benefit. She let her benefit max out and then took her own Social Security benefit. She could have also done that, in reverse, meaning that she took her own Social Security benefit at age 62 and then switched over to her widow's benefit at her full retirement age of 66. Okay. And the concept is you want to leave yourself with the highest benefit possible for the longest period of time. Okay. And if you want to flip the slide, we're going to get into the taxation of Social Security benefits, but I'll do another just brief check-in to see if there's any questions on any of the stuff I just talked about.
Just reconfirming the percentage that a disabled adult child receives. One of our participants missed that percentage. Were you able to
Sure.
cover that again?
Yeah, it's 50% of the number holder's full benefit. In a life case, in a death case, which I didn't say, but I'll say it now since I'm being asked specifically, it's 75% of the worker's full benefit. And I should say, I don't want to get too complicated into this, but there is a maximum that will pay out to a family. So if somebody comes to us, let's say they have a $2,000 benefit, and they, for some reason, I don't know, they were like Tony Randall, they were very active past age 65, and they have 5 minor kids past age 65. Well, each one of those kids would be due $1,000, right? Based on the concept that each child is due a $1,000 check. Well, the maximum that we can pay out may be, $4,000 for the whole family. Okay. So in that example where the person has 5 kids, each one is due $1,000, but we can only pay out, we're already paying the individual $2,000 for their benefit. So there's only $2,000 left to pay for the remaining family. So those 5 kids would get $400 each, the $2,000 divided by 5. And then as the kids either came off of the benefits, they aged off of them, graduated from high school, the other kids' benefits would be increased until there are only 2 kids on the record where each one could receive the full portion of the $1,000 benefit.
Okay, we have covered and cleared the chat at this time.
Awesome. So taxation of Social Security, when you file for your Social Security benefits, you should be aware that they may be taxable. We don't answer a lot of tax questions because, even though your Social Security benefits are taxable, the IRS is the agency that collects taxes, okay? But just some basics, if you're filing as a individual, okay? If you have between $25,000 and $34,000, you may have to pay income tax on up to 50% of your benefits. Over $34,000, up to 85% of your benefits may be taxable. And of course, you can see what it's like if you file a joint return. And if you're married and you file separate returns, which most people don't, but you're probably going to pay taxes on both of your benefits. And if you go to the next slide, we'll just linger on this for a minute. Please, Brody, just to let people see that little formula. Okay. If you're using a program like I use TurboTax to file my taxes, or if you're going to somebody, or even if you're doing it on paper, really just plug the numbers in and it will tell you what part of your Social Security has to be taxed. Okay. If you could flip to the next slide, please, Brody. We're going to change topics here. We're going to flip over to Medicare, okay? It's an important part of filing for retirement. With Social Security comes Medicare, okay? Not Medicaid. A lot of people confuse Medicare and Medicaid. Medicaid is a state-run program for individuals who have low income, okay? So it provides health insurance. It's federally funded, but it's state-run. Okay, Medicare is health insurance that comes with Social Security. And basically, you'll see there's whole seminars devoted to just Medicare. You know, what we handle the entitlement to Medicare. So we get you signed up for Part A and Part B. And in 2021, currently there's 4 parts to Medicare. There's the hospital insurance, which is Part A. And by the way, that has no premium cost. So that has no monthly cost. While you're paying your Medicare taxes, you're paying your premium for Part A. Part B is the medical insurance, okay, or the outpatient insurance, or the doctor's insurance, or supplemental medical insurance. I've heard it called different things by different people, okay, and it's going to cover basically anything outpatient. And essentially, if I were to sum up Part B in a nutshell, it's going to cover 80% of your bills, your doctor's bills, and other outpatient medical expenses after you pay your deductible. The premium in 2021 is $148.50 or $148.60. That's up from $144.50 from last year. Okay. There's also 2 parts of Medicare that don't involve us. They involve private insurance companies that sell plans to people on Medicare. So there's Part C of Medicare, and those are Medicare Advantage plans. And essentially, those are plans that if you opt into Part C of Medicare, essentially what you'll be doing is nothing will go through Part A or Part B. Everything will go through this private Medicare Advantage plan. And essentially, you signed a 1-year contract with that plan to take care of your medical needs, and you can either re-up it the following year or go back to original Medicare A and B, or change your plan at the end of the year. There's whole seminars out there to help you pick plans, and there's also a great agency. Since CMS, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, they're the federal agency that runs Medicare, they don't have a representative in every town doing talks like this, but they contract their work out. And in every county in Pennsylvania, we have an organization called APPRISE, APPRISE, and APPRISE does non-biased Medicare counseling with people who have questions concerning the outside insurance that is sold around Medicare. You'll run into a lot of insurance salesmen. A lot of them are great people who really know what they're talking about. But if you feel like you're getting pressure for sales, you can go to APPRISE, and they're like a do-gooder group. They're not going to try to sell you anything, okay? They're just going to try to help you sort out your insurance. And at your local Corey Senior Center, they have trained APPRISE volunteers there. So you can simply, if you want an appointment with APPRISE, you can call over there and you can get an appointment with an APPRISE counselor who will review your health insurance needs and help you sort through all the various plans that are out there. Okay. Part D of Medicare, which started in 2006 as a result of the Medicare Modernization Act of 2004. Okay, basically that's similar to the Part C model, where there's private insurance companies that are getting subsidized by Medicare. So they're getting money from Medicare to be able to sell insurance to seniors, and you can get your prescriptions covered. There's about 56 plans in Pennsylvania. Again, it's not like A and B at all, where A and B is one size fits all. So my mom out in Denver has the same A and B as people here in Pennsylvania, whereas Part C and Part D are individual plans, and they're sold locally, if that makes sense. So the plans that are available for sale for my mom in Denver are very different for the plans available for sale for you guys here in Pennsylvania. Medicare.gov, their website, also has some great tools with helping people pick out, various drug plans, prescription plans, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. If we flip to the next slide, please, Brody. Medicare eligibility, most of the time, people think of Medicare as, for older people, aged Medicare. quite frankly, most of our customers do fall under that category, probably about 80% of them. So you can get Medicare at age 65, but you can also get Medicare after 24 months of being on Social Security disability. So in your 24th month of eligibility for Social Security disability, you become eligible for Medicare. There's 3 other more esoteric ways to get Medicare. If you have ALS or chronic kidney failure, you can actually bypass that 24-month period and get onto Medicare more quickly. And recently, there was quite frankly, I don't know a lot about this. I haven't seen a claim, but there are some lawsuits settled out in Montana that involved workers who got cancer from removing hazardous materials from work sites. And, part of the, settlement with these lawsuits enabled these folks also to get onto Medicare earlier. Okay, so that's, I don't know if I'll ever see a case like that here in Pennsylvania, but those are the 5 ways that a person can have Medicare. And if you flip to the next slide, really most people sign up when they're 65, okay? The one exception to that is if you're 65 years old, but you're still working and you're covering yourself under your employer group health plan from your employment, or your spouse is working, and they're covering themselves out, they're covering you under their health plan, you can delay your enrollment to Medicare. So you don't need to take advantage of that initial enrollment period. Instead, you can use the special enrollment period. And you can delay your enrollment to Medicare indefinitely as long as both of those conditions are met, meaning you are covered under employer group health plan, and that health plan is based on current and active employment. Okay. I'm going to tell a story. This may be the most important thing that I talk about during the whole presentation, because quite frankly, once you figure out your date you want to go and file your claim, Social Security is pretty foolproof. Okay. We're going to process your application and you're going to start getting your check. The one place where we see people making errors that impact them in the future is with Medicare enrollment. And the most common error, I'm going to tell a personal story about that will hopefully illustrate what not to do. Okay. My dad's people, my dad's family, they're all from Punxsutawney. So I come from groundhog stock. One of my uncles was one of those folks who wears the top hat and, paraded the groundhog around. He's retired, but he did that for years. My one uncle in Punxsutawney, who's now deceased, so I can talk about him in a Social Security context, he turned 65 years old and became eligible for Medicare. At the time, his wife, my aunt, was working at the bank in Punxsutawney. She was 58, so he's 65, she's 58. And she was covering both of them under her health insurance. So at age 65, he refused Part B of Medicare. He delayed it because he didn't need it at the time, because my aunt was working and covering him under her health plan, or the bank's health plan. Fast forward 2 years, my uncle is now 67 years old. My aunt is 60, okay? She gets breast cancer and has to leave her job at the bank due to complications from the cancer. However, the HR department at the bank basically told her, we're going to continue to cover you and my Uncle Bob, for the next 5 years until you turn 60, okay? My Uncle Bob's 67 at this time, so he would be 72. And they agree to that coverage. Now, what changed at age 60 for my aunt and uncle is they still had the coverage from the bank, right? They still had the employer group health plan, but it wasn't based on current employment now. It's now based on a disability plan, okay? My uncle turned 72. He contacts his local Social Security office in Du Bois and tries to sign up for Part B, and they tell him, you're not eligible to sign up for Part B, okay, because your wife was not currently employed. Therefore, you're not eligible for a special enrollment. You're eligible for a general enrollment, okay? And the general enrollment period is every January through March 31st, so from January through March 31st, where anybody who didn't sign up for Medicare previously can sign up for it. Their coverage will become effective the following July. So their coverage becomes effective July 1st, and they pay a 10% penalty or a 10% premium surcharge for every year that they were out of Medicare. So for my uncle's case, he contacted Du Bois in November. He had to wait until January to enroll. His coverage became effective in July, and he then had to start paying 50% more for his Medicare because, you know, Medicare acts like any other insurance company. It's more expensive to buy the older you are. Okay. So again, you can delay your enrollment to Medicare indefinitely as long as you have, one, an employer group health plan, and that employer group health plan is based on current employment. If the employer group health plan is based on COBRA, some retiree plan that your company is offering, some disability plan, whatever the, you know, plan that your company can offer outside of you being employed, that does not qualify you for a special enrollment to Medicare. So you'll want to make sure you pick up Part B, or, you know, wind up in a similar situation that my uncle did, where he had to delay his enrollment and also, you know, pay more of a cost in premiums. I'm going to just break for a second, just see if there's any questions on that, Brody.
We'll give everyone a moment here to respond if they have anything in the chat. Currently, there are no pending questions.
Okay, so if we flip to the next slide, this is about how to enroll. You know, so you're already enrolled in Medicare. Maybe you refused Part B and you just need to pick up Part B. It's pretty easy to do. All you need to do, there's three ways that you can do it. You need to submit the form CMS 40B, which basically says, please enroll me in Part B. Here's my signature. And the CMS 564, which goes to the HR department of your company, and they certify that you've been covered under employer group health plan and employed since the time you refused Part B. And then you can either mail or fax those to your local office. You can fax them to a central processing center, and that number is on our website under Medicare. Or you can sorry, I lost my thought here for a second, Brody. You can submit them online. There's a new tool where you can submit them directly to us. I would generally allow 30 to 45 days for the processing of those forms. So you want to time it that if you want your Part B to start April 1st, we'll get us those forms, you know, 45 to 60 days ahead of time, so we're able to process them to get your Part B started on time. Okay. Let's see here. I'm going to, you know, Brody, do you have a live internet connection? Can you pull up our internet page?
Yeah, hold on just a moment. Just bear with me.
Yep. That's socialsecurity.gov. The rest of my slides, I'm going to flip over to the internet page, and just since we have a small group here, I'm going to just show you, you know, the live page as opposed to slides that just have pictures of the page, if that makes sense.
Okay, up on the screen right now, you should be seeing, the group should be seeing ssa.gov, so you can fire when ready there, John.
Okay. I also have to let everyone know my son is a budding pianist, and he just started practicing piano. So if you hear some piano in the background, that's my son plinking away. Okay. The first thing I want to bring to everyone's attention, you may or may not have been one of the people over the past 2 years who got a call from somebody claiming to be from Social Security, and basically it starts off as a robot. They're very threatening. to you. They say that, we've suspended your social security number. I actually keep one on my voicemail. I've received a number of calls myself that I play for groups live. It's a scam, okay? We're not calling people telling you, that your social security number is suspended. These scams just keep going on, and some of our customers actually fall for them. If you were to fall for this scam, let me tell you what would happen, okay? Because we have had people, we've investigated this thoroughly because it's not a new scam. But if you were to believe one of these scam calls that are going on, what would happen is you would be, and I'm using air quotes here, connected to a social security office. So it says like, please press 1 to get your social security number unsuspended. By the way, we can't even suspend your social security number. So that's something that even if we wanted to do, we could not do. There's no avenue for us to do that. If you pressed 1, you'd get connected to a very busy call center. There's a lot of background noise, and generally the person is, not going to be from the U.S. There's going to be some heavy foreign accents there, and they're going to instruct. They're basically going to say, "Hey, your Social Security has been suspended. This is, you're in big trouble. The only thing that you can do to get it unsuspended is we need you to go to the store. We need you to buy gift cards, okay? We need you to then bring those gift cards back, call us back, and read us the numbers off those gift cards. And then we need you to mail those gift cards into your local Social Security office. And when you do that, we'll be able to, unsuspend your Social Security number." The other thing that they will do is, it's kind of morphed, the scam has morphed a lot over the last 2 years, but quite frankly, over the last month, we've gotten word into it that they are now making fake Social Security badges and IDs that they'll take pictures of and text to the customers, again, to try to intimidate a customer into taking this action and buying these gift cards and then sending them into the Social Security office. Okay, don't do that. Spread the word to all your friends and relatives that that's not how we do business. We don't cold call people. We don't threaten people over the phone. And we certainly will never, ever in your wildest dreams ask you to go buy gift cards and read you the numbers over the phone, okay? So we keep that red bar that's right across the front of the page. What should I do if I get a call claiming there's a problem with my Social Security account? If you just click on that for a second, Brody, we keep all the new information about the scams right here, okay? So if you have relatives, friends, your mother, it's usually old, isolated people who are falling victim to this. Although, quite frankly, a state senator's wife in Utah fell victim to this. So it's not only old and feeble people. There is some power that, the reason why the scam continues is because some people really are falling for it. So do your part in spreading this information as much as possible for us. The next part of the website that I want to highlight for folks, Brody, is mySocialSecurity. So if you scroll down, it's right below online services. You see a link to mySocialSecurity. Oftentimes people will ask me, what's the one thing I should do to prepare for retirement? And quite frankly, the simple answer in 2021 is make sure you have a mySocialSecurity account. Your mySocialSecurity account is really, to me, the most efficient way to deal with Social Security in 2021. I've had an account, since they came out. As a person, as a hopeful future Social Security customer, I log into my account only once a year just to make sure my earnings are reported correctly by Social Security. I've already talked extensively on how earnings, how earnings are used to form your benefit. Well, if the earnings aren't being reported correctly by your employer, it's a lot easier to fix that pre-claim than to wait till you're 62 or 63 and then have to fix an earnings problem with earnings that may be decades old, okay? So, pre-claim, you use your mySocialSecurity account to make sure your earnings are correct. You can also request a replacement Social Security card. Nobody thinks they need a replacement Social Security card until that moment you do, okay? Until that moment that some third party says, hey, I need your Social Security card, and you go and look for it and you can't find it. It's very easy to do online. I've done it myself online. You simply click a link and you give us your driver's license, and then you get a new card sent to you in 7 to 10 days. You can also do, as a future customer now, those are really the two main things, available, for folks who aren't receiving benefits. Once you start receiving benefits, and Brody, did you click on the link that says My Social Security?
Yes.
Okay. And there's that one part, what can you do with a My Social Security account? That's kind of where I'm going from right here. Basically, once you're on your Social Security benefits, you can, it becomes almost like a dashboard for managing your Social Security. So you can set up or change your direct deposit. Before I talk about that, our biggest complaint that we have from customers in 2021 is we're hard to get in touch with. People will wait on hold while they call us. Our field offices have been closed for face-to-face service during for about a year now, since March of last year during the pandemic. So it makes our phone lines even busier. And for those of you who are computer savvy, okay, you can really manage your Social Security right from your My Social Security account. You can change your direct deposit. You can get your 1099. So we're in Social Security 1099 season, where we're mailing out 1099s to people. You can get that right online. You don't have to wait for us. You can get notices online. If you're on Social Security, you'll find that sometimes an outside party, an outside agency, will ask you to verify your benefits. We call that a benefit verification letter. You can do that right online. You can change your address. You can do advanced designation of a representative payee. So we have a program at Social Security called Representative Payee, and some of our customers are incapable of managing their own money. So maybe you have a 65-year-old who's doing great, and gosh, now they're 95 and they have dementia and they're in a nursing home. Well, we assign what is called a representative payee for that person. Through your My Social Security account, you can do advanced designations of representative payees. So you can basically say, like, if I become, infirmed, incapable, I would like my wife so-and-so to be my representative payee. And you can actually name folks, and that helps us when we're trying to find a payee and you might not be able to express yourself to us anymore. So again, I encourage everybody to set up a My Social Security account. In fact, I can't even imagine how you deal with Social Security today without an account, because more and more services keep getting added to it. And, it's kind of a future. I expect more and more to continue to be added to My Social Security. In general, it's pretty easy to create an account. I didn't have any problems with mine. We will ask you some identifying questions about who you are that match up with our records. And then we ask questions that are related to your credit history. However, since I've signed up from my Social Security account, there's even alternative ways to register where you can take a picture of an ID with a smartphone and scan that in. So there's, it's becoming easier to set up a My Social Security account, and I encourage, everyone to do it, to take advantage of all those, resources that are available online today. It really gives you a personal look at Social Security is really what it does. And, Brody, if you would just go back to our homepage, I just want to hit one other thing, and then I'm going to just open it up for questions. Do you see, Brody, if you're back on the homepage in the top right, there's that cute kid on her father's shoulders. It says retirement.
Yes, I've got it.
Okay. If you click on the box, I was talking about the tools for retirement. They're all right here. Okay. And you can just kind of scroll down and you can kind of show people the different, the various tools, as well as the FAQs, as well as the links, links to even other retirement publications that I didn't send you. So really, this is your starting point for retirement benefits with Social Security, as far as learning about them, actually applying, and then managing them after you've applied. Okay, so I've wrapped up my presentation on Social Security retirement, and we have 9 minutes. So I'm going to either give you guys back 9 minutes of your day, or just allow any Social Security related questions that someone might have.
At this time, you may feel free to either come off of mute, unmute yourself to ask the question directly to John, or you can also type that in the chat and I will relay that question to our speaker here today. There is one question here in the chat as I'm kind of getting back in control of the presentation room here. Monica is asking if a person is coming close to their FRA, full retirement age, when should they apply for Social Security?
Yeah, so generally, I didn't actually, that's a great question, and thanks for that question, Monica. There's really two ways to apply. You would do it through the website, or you call us and you schedule an appointment, and then we take the appointment, we take the claim for you. If you're going to do it with us, you're going to want to leave more lead time, because our appointments are sometimes 4 to 6 weeks out, meaning if you call us, you're not going to get an appointment for 4 to 6 weeks. But generally, you only need to do it about a month before you're, assuming you're taking benefits, at your full retirement age. You would generally need to do it 30 to 45 days before. If you do it too early, because there's old guidance out there that a lot of the public still seems to know, that says file your claim, 90 days in advance or 3 months in advance. What happens nowadays for a typical retirement claim, it takes us about 15 minutes to process that claim. So what happens if a person files a claim in March, but they don't want an entitlement, let's say until July, we're going to sit on that claim until the beginning of July and not do anything with it. And what I've noticed is it seems to increase anxiety in our customers as they call us and go, when are you going to process my claim? When are you going to process my claim? We process claims based on the current operating month. So if your full retirement age is in July, let's say it's July 15th, okay? That means your first check, July's check, is paid in August. And specifically based on a birthday of the 15th of the month, it would be paid the third Wednesday in August. Okay, so what would happen if a person filed that claim now? We would process it the first week of July to be paid with the third Wednesday in August. Okay, unless you have something unusual in your past, okay, because again, we don't really know what a person is bringing to us on the retirement claim until they actually file. So I can use, my family as an example again. My mom filed her widow's claim, and that involved an extra step because she was eligible for a Canadian pension also. Okay, so that takes longer than the 15 minutes to adjudicate it. I had another claim that I didn't adjudicate it, but I was just aware of it, where there was a spousal benefit involved, but there was a previous marriage, that had to be established and then showed that it wasn't legit anymore before we could pay the current spouse. And the divorce from the previous spouse had happened in Mexico, and it took a while for the if the individual ever even got it. But it wasn't just like, okay, this is real simple, go down to the courthouse, show us the divorce. This took more time. So if you have something about your claim that's going to take Social Security more time to adjudicate it, you'd want to use that full 90-day period. Okay. I hope I answered that question thoroughly, Brody.
We'll give a last call here for questions, either coming off of mute or in the chat. I just wanted to remind you that this presentation will be recorded and also edited for our technical difficulties. For your later reference and viewing pleasure, we will be sending that out to the registration email that you provided if you registered for this program online through our website. You can also, we will provide a link to the presentation on our Facebook pages and also through our YouTube page, which will be filed under the playlist of the Winter 2021 Digital Program Series. Additionally, please refer to the previous email reminders with today's Zoom link that was attached. There were previous references during the presentation of the links that John has specifically provided that will be very helpful resources for you after setting up your mySocialSecurity account that will be linked within that email that was previously sent out. Well, there does not appear to be any other questions here, John. So I thank you for joining us today once again for coming back here to working with Corey Hyed. We're very grateful for your time today and all of you out there who participated in today's presentation. Thank you so much for choosing the Corey Higher Education Council, and we wish you a great rest of the day and good luck in retirement.
Thanks, Brody. I appreciate it.